Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for signing back on. Just trying to make this thing work again. And we're going to have Whiskey Benjamin on with us again. Little technical difficulties, but that's bound to happen. That's the internet for you. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back.
Oh, difficulties. Always difficulties.
That's all right. You know what? The timer starts all over again. We got 1 hour, 1 full hour now. All right. All right, cool. So let's get into it, man. I know you talked a little bit about yourself already, as far as the business side goes, but I would love to know, without indulging too much, maybe, or too many private stuff, but something about yourself that maybe most of us who know you on a work level don't know about you. Maybe you're a singer, a bathroom singer. I don't know. So, tell us a little something about yourself that we would not know.
My wife would disagree. She's like, no singing. No, so I'm from Arizona originally, so I grew up in southern Arizona. So I grew up around a bunch of cattle people. There you go. That's something probably nobody ever really knew. So rode on horses, did rodeo, did all that stuff. Ended up getting my first job in restaurants, and the rest is history. So I worked in hotels and restaurants for about 25 years before making the change over to the distributor, where I was a luxury spirits specialist, and then eventually working for White Mackay up in Illinois. So it's given me a chance, like you were saying, to enjoy some great spirits, and enjoy some great wines, live in some amazing places, including all the way over in Hawaii, as well as eat some very, very phenomenal food. So people ask me all the time, do you love what you do? And I was like, I don't really work. I get to do what I love for a living. So it's
exactly.
Definitely a dream life, for sure.
There's a lot of people we run into that always kind of admire what we do, and especially at your level, the things that you do and the teaching part you do. And there's so many people passionate out there, especially on the Instagram community. We run into them all the time. And I've had conversations about them trying to interested in getting into what you do, for example. So what advice would you give to someone who's possibly looking to get into something that you do now?
I mean, especially when it comes to like Scotch and Scotch education and history and knowledge. Getting out there and just doing it. You see a whiskey tasting that pops up on your social media site, go check it out. If you get a chance to go on and see some, like the Whiskey Trail in the United States, or maybe go over to Scotland and actually go to a bunch of different distilleries, do it, because it's experience. People ask me all the time, how do you have the palate that you do, which for me, I feel like it's just starting. It's just constantly trying new things, trying new whiskeys. Get out there and try as many as you can. It's kind of like, you're not going to be the best chef in the world without going out and cooking constantly and trying new things and seeing new places and checking out different farms. It's the same thing in the whiskey world as well as the rest of the industry. I mean, I like more than just whiskey, despite what most people would think. I like lots of different things. I like all kinds of different spirits, wines, all kinds of different Amaros. Amaros have always been a bit of my passion and obsession, especially the history behind it. We want to talk about some of the bloodiest histories. Check out some of the Amaro histories.
Oh, very cool. I'm sorry, I'm going to just pin a comment here, so that way people can ask some questions.
Yeah, definitely. One
thing I recently got into myself is I was always a Scotch single malt guy, and yeah, I enjoyed American whiskey from time to time, but lately I've been getting more and more into it, and it's actually helping my palate and helping me get educated more. So like you said, try more and more. Try American, try Scotch, try whatever, Yep. So it really does help, and your palate does develop even further. Well, so yeah, guys, please, we're on live with Benjamin. This is a very relaxed, we're not just going to be talking here. We would love to some interaction from you guys. So Whiskey and Whiskey USA says, first, thank you for doing this. No, thank you for coming on. We're here for you. We appreciate it. And please feel free to ask questions. We'll try to monitor it. We might not be able to answer it right then itself, but we'll come back to it. We're going to scroll back and look at it. So continuing on, the man for this brand, behind the brand, Richard Paterson. Let's get a little history. Tell us about him. I met him for the first time last year, and I'm in awe of this man. Man, he's got a great sense of humor. He is phenomenal. Just very different compared to most people I run into in the industry like that. So please tell us a little bit about him.
I've had the pleasure of working with some pretty amazing whiskey producers and whiskey makers around the U.S. as well as in Scotland, and there's really nothing or nobody like Richard Paterson. I mean, for every generation, you know, we talk about the different masters that influence a generation. And, you know, for example, Picasso was an influencer and definitely the best at what he did for his generation. And then you look at like Stephen Hawkins, who is, you know, has done numerous wonderful things for our world and how we see our world today. Richard Paterson is that for the whiskey world. He is the best at what he does for his generation. He brings to the table not only charisma, presence, storytelling, but he also is the brilliant mind behind the creation for a lot of these and also consistency for a lot of these wonderful, wonderful whiskeys. So, I mean, he's third generation whiskey maker. His grandfather was a whiskey maker. His father was a whiskey maker. And since you've seen him, you've heard the story about how he got into whiskey at the ripe young age of 8 years old with him and his twin brother, going and playing in the actual rickhouses. So I mean, he's had an education from a family standpoint. He's also had the education from a consumer as well as a creative standpoint.
Fantastic. He's been. You said how long has he been doing this for?
So he's been in the industry for over 50 years. In fact, about 45 of those minimum are with Dalmore specifically.
That's incredible.
It's pretty amazing.
I heard recently he acquired and started working on the creative process behind the juice in the bottle with another brand that you guys also manage.
So he oversees the kind of like the final word on a lot of the whiskeys that come from White & Mackay, which is the company that I work for. Dalmore is his baby. Obviously, nobody gets to touch Dalmore but Richard. But he's got his hand in other creations like Jura, for example, which is the island whiskey just north of Isla. He also is responsible for the recreation of the lost but found famous McKinley's Rare whiskey that was left in Antarctica by Shackleton himself. 1907, the whiskey was left behind, and in 2007, the whiskey was found again. So he was in the process of recreating a particular blended malt whiskey. And then he touches a number of different projects within White & Mackay as well.
Fantastic. Drew over there from Scotch Society, thank you for helping me introduce Ben to Ben, and I appreciate it. I know you're monitoring over there some questions.
Yes.
Everybody make sure you follow Scotch Society 305 and the whole team there. Let's get a little away from everybody who's over there. Let's see them.
All right, get the whole crew over here. Everybody, come on, you got to tell us who you are and where you're from.
Got it?
Yeah, go for it.
Cigar Lion 305 from Miami.
Networking Maverick from Miami. Woo woo.
Yeah.
Cigar number 4 from Miami.
Miami Youth from Miami, Jamaica.
Jamaica, baby.
Lady
Oh.
Rosanna G from Miami.
And of course,
and
Drew.
Yes, Scotch Society 305 from Miami.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Mr. 305, that's a different Mr. 305.
The one thing that all of us have in common in this room is we are enthusiasts, and that's what really has brought most of everybody together.
Absolutely.
It's about trying new things, and especially about Scotch whiskey.
Yeah. So, Drew, please feel free to interrupt us in between questions, and if you see an interesting question, please let Ben know so he can answer it. For example, Epstein1014 asks, "What's your favorite whiskey that isn't Dalmore?"
Oh, that's a tough one. What kind of what time? What part of the day? What day? What's the temperature outside? I'm just kind of like saying, what's your favorite music?
What's the first brand that comes in your mind? Jura?
Jura, yeah, Jura. Hey, Long Island whiskey, just a touch of peat right there.
Perfect, man. How did you guys decide to come up with a cigar combo?
For cigar malt or just?
Yes, that's what the question was. Yeah.
So there are a number of different cigars that can go and have been paired with cigar malts. Monte Cristo #2, obviously a great pairing, and a cigar to go along with the cigar malts. The Davidoff 50th Anniversary Churchill, also a great cigar that was paired with it last year, actually, when they launched their 50th anniversary cigar. It's the idea behind cigar malt is to really kind of bring those worlds of the cigar smoker, which, you know, traditionally, especially being in Miami with us, a lot of cigar smoking and a lot of history behind cigar smoking, going with Scotch versus going with, say, a cognac or a rum. So it does bring a sweeter aromatic, but a dry palate, and then a beautiful soft finish with the tannic note to get the salivation going and getting you ready for that next draw of your cigar. So it's one of Richard Paterson's greatest, most famous achievements within the core expressions of Dalmore for the top 7 whiskeys. Definitely a unicorn out in the whiskey world. It's the only single malt in the world that actually calls that out.
Fantastic. So I want to do maybe a little giveaway. Let's start warming up, and maybe let's pour some whiskey in our glass. And I'm sure you guys are drinking over there, but I'm salivating myself, so I need to have some pour. So we'll continue the Q&As and the conversation, but let's do a little giveaway. So we're going to give out one of these. You can see Ben and I are both wearing one. These are awesome. So Ben, this is what we're going to do. Ben's going to ask a question, and the first two people, we'll give out two of these. First two people to DM me the correct answer, I'll have them in a chronological order, so I'll be able to tell you guys later. We'll basically win two of these, one each. So Ben, please, it's your show. Please ask any question you like, and let's see what answers come through.
Well, I didn't really talk much about the actual history of the distillery, so I won't throw that one out there. We'll save that for some of the other prizes when we get into the history. But I guess where am I from originally? I did tell you that one.
Yes, that sounds good. Okay, that's a great one. So first two going out to that. So what are we pouring first in our glasses? What should I pour?
I'm going to say let's go with the cigar malt to start off with. I wanted to talk a little bit about the reason why I picked cigar malts and also portwood this evening. They're both non-age statements. They're both very unique in their own right within their own category. I really wanted to talk about the significance and the difference between non-age statements and age statements around the world, and at least from my personal opinion, how they really differ from the Dalmore outside of a lot of other producers around Scotland. So the cigar malts was reintroduced into the United States around 2011 at the Big Smoke in Las Vegas, where we had the Cigar Aficionado event. And it was great to bring it back because this is the third generation cigar malts. So we started off with cigar malts, which was actually going to be an on-age statement, about a 12-year-old whiskey on average. Starts off in ex-bourbon casks and eventually finishes in Matusalem Oloroso. There's a word you shouldn't forget, just for those of you that are following. And then it changed to what we call cigar. Excuse me. It changed from a marketing standpoint into the Grand Reserva. And only for about 2 or 3 years did it actually get produced as Grand Reserva. If you ask Richard, he'll say there was a bit of an issue as far as marketing goes for kind of targeting the rest of the world, cigars and cigar smokers versus non-cigar smokers. But it was decided eventually to go back to and create the cigar malt again. So the difference between the cigar malt, the Grand Reserva, and now the cigar malt Grand Reserva is going to be the third component, which is added onto this particular beautiful whiskey. And that's about a third of this whiskey is actually finished in Pimiac Cru Barrique casks from Bordeaux. So Cabernet Sauvignon.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to give you that lovely tannic note right at the very end after you finish your whiskey that gets you chewing a little bit, gets that salivation going. It gets you ready for that next draw in the cigar. Or in my case, since I started in the food industry, that next bite from your food. This is not only a great cigar whiskey, it's also a great food whiskey. It goes with everything from what you would expect, kind of big fatty foods like like a steak or like a rib tip or anything that's going to be grilled, all the way down to a Bibb lettuce salad, which I know that sounds very strange, but I actually did a dinner not too long ago where it was a pairing. The chef brought it out, and I was kind of questioning whether or not this would be a good set. But it was a Bibb lettuce salad. It had a citrus vinaigrette. It had candied almonds. It also had a chev. And it was perfect because the chev is nice and rich, so the cigar malt cut right through, especially with that Pimiac Cru influence. The candied almonds went really well with the Oloroso influence, as well as the citrus vinaigrette, which citrus is a huge component behind the flavors behind Dalmore. Dark chocolate and citrus are like the foundation for what the brand is. And so it was such a great pairing.
That's great knowledge. Yeah, that's great knowledge. I'm sure the people are learning so much information with all that information. That's great. Now, do you can you run us down like Richard Paterson does on his tasting? Do you think we could pull that off, maybe even 10% of it, or should we not even try?
I can tell you what makes Richard special is it's Richard.
So yeah.
What makes me special is that it's me.
Yeah.
So everyone definitely has our own kind of presence. If we all tried to imitate Richard, we'd all be saying the exact same thing. But we all.
He was incredible to watch. If those of you guys watching never seen Richard, please YouTube, Google him on YouTube. Find him on YouTube. He's incredible to watch. as far as tasting and stuff goes. So you want to run us down through the nose and the tasting profile?
Yeah.
Let's taste it.
All right. So I will pull out a little bit of Richard just because we're doing this. We're doing this.
Let's do it.
So with Richard, he obviously uses the Copa Copita glass. If you don't have one like this with the stem, we obviously have a Glencairn, which is a little bit more readily available. The idea is to really take the actual whiskey and to funnel it toward the actual top of the nose. Because if you look, it's quite small. So the idea is to really get it into your actual nostrils without losing the beautiful influence from the actual whiskey and not to also burn out your receptors at the same time. Because if you've got a big rocks glass, you're going to lose a lot of the actual essence of the flavors of the whiskey. You're also going to get the influences from outside. So, of course, when you're tasting your whiskey, there's a lot of people, and this is my own personal opinion. Again, I'm just kind of putting that one up there. There's a few things you don't want to do, and there's things you want to do. So, for example, just like a nice wine, you want to be able to open it up. But I don't recommend doing this. Because when you do this, you're just pissing off the alcohol. Because when you do this with a glass of wine, you're looking at a 14% alcohol, so those natural flavors will attach to the outside of the wall, but the alcohol is not going to influence it as much. But when you're doing that with something that's 40% alcohol, that alcohol is going to really resonate and stick right in the middle of the glass. So a soft coating of the glass, if you want to do it gently, you can actually just coat the inside of the glass like so. You can do a soft swirl. But what you don't want to do, again, is that really aggressive, and I know you've seen it, where people take their wine glass.
I do it sometimes, so that's good. Good to learn.
It's for me, it's made a huge difference in actually being able to identify some of the smaller characteristics within the whiskey. Because as I taste this whiskey, which I do pretty regularly, you pick something up new every single time. From there, obviously, you want to introduce the whiskey, and this is where Richard says, hello. And then one more time, obviously, this is the idea behind this is to really kind of pick up what sweet is, what salinity is, what dry is, because you'll put it on your nose and you'll say it's sweet. What kind of sweet? Is it like candied apple sweet? Is it like fresh apple sweet? Is it going to be like an apple spread sweet? Are you getting more of a cotton candy kind of sweet, or are you getting more of like a honeysuckle sweet? You really want to be able to identify for yourself what makes the most sense, because everybody has a little bit different receptor on their actual nose. Also, going from left to right, keeping it up to your nose. This does nothing. It looks cool, but it doesn't do much. You're losing a lot of the essence of what it's kind of like. It's like taking a piece of chocolate and waving in front of somebody's face. They're gonna snatch it from you and be like, "What's your problem?" The second, of course, you go in again. And you subtly get the second level. You'll start to notice that there's a little bit of dryness, a little bit of salinity. But is it going to be like salt, like you get out of the pepper shaker, or is it going to be salt like you can smell that maritime influence on the ocean itself? So finding what that salinity is also another part that helps to identify this particular whiskey. And then the third time, of course, fine, thank you. Thank you very much. And for that, it's about finding that nice balance of sweets and the savory, and you're going to pick up other things. You'll pick up a little bit of citrus. You'll pick up a nice, subtle, like vanilla and also caramel in the background. But then you'll also get that dark chocolate, real dark chocolate, like a cocoa nib kind of characteristic on the nose as well. And then, of course, on the palate, there's a few things that you don't want to do. You want to take your time when approaching your whiskey. A few people have heard me say this before, but this is my little stick on what Richard does. When you approach whiskey for the first time, you approach it like you would your ex. You take your time. You don't go rushing in, because if you do, you're going to get hit or smacked right in the face. So taking your time is important. Really getting into the whiskey and letting it speak to you. Taking your time is what, as Richard puts, is the most important part of enjoying whiskey. And then, of course, on the palate, the initial tasting on the palate, a good 10 to 12 seconds. It's just like enjoying a nice glass of wine. You really want to have those subtle flavors that are going to be kicking in. So in Scotland, we say Slán Siobhan. So I want to say Slán Siobhan to everybody back at in their boxes at home, as you so eloquently put it earlier this evening. And everybody at the table, and as well as yourself, is a little introduction and the first tasting of the evening. So Slán Siobhan.
Slán Siobhan. Slán Siobhan.
Dilly dilly.
So giving it a good 10 seconds, and then taking a deep breath and counting backwards from 10. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you'll start to get some of those hidden flavors that are really kind of sneaking up on the end. You're getting you're getting brightness, you're getting dry, you're getting a little tobacco, you're getting a little bit of dark chocolate and citrus. You're also getting a little bit of, and I know this is a very strange way to describe it, but down here in Miami, we drink a lot of espresso. It's a ritual. It's one of those things that you do. So one of the things I love the most on a good espresso is right at the top of the espresso, you've got that beautiful crema, which the crema has a slight sweetness and a cream characteristic behind it that is like nothing else. And then you take your finger and you put it in the espresso and you put it in your mouth. You'll get that sweetness right at the beginning, and then you get that tartness from a little bit of the espresso that's left behind. And that's what I get when I tried the Dalmore for the first time. But now that I've been talking, you'll notice you may be chewing just a little bit. Just a little bit. And you'll notice the salivation's kicking in. There's a bit of a tannic note to your palate. It's getting you ready for that next draw in the cigar or that next bite of food. So that was the long version. I hope you enjoyed that one. But that's a good way to kind of introduce yourself to cigar.
No, that was fantastic. Drew, we got any questions that we should point out? Anything that you saw?
Yes, definitely. Cask Preserve asks, for those who've never tried Dalmore before, what would you recommend as their first Dalmore?
That's a great question. That was one of the questions that everybody asked when they first walked in the room today. And as you can see, this was obviously a good way to kind of start off. So this is the Dalmore 15. This is what we consider our house style. It really showcases a subtle, soft, beautiful, silky characteristic of what Dalmore is so special for, as well as the relationship that we've had with a very exclusive sherry producer called Gonzalez Boice. And I talk about sherry a lot, especially when I do training and education, to really kind of ask people, what is sherry versus sherry? Now, it seems like a pretty simple, straightforward answer, but a lot of people don't really think about it that much. And when you're looking at producers, what really makes Dalmore special is the relationships that we've had for over 150 years with Gonzalez Boice to exclusively use one of their exclusive, what they call the quote-unquote perfect sherry, which is the Methuselah, which is the name, Oloroso, which is a VORS certified 30-year-old minimum aged sherry cask. Sherry, all the way from 30 years to about 100 years in a bottle. And when we're first looking at sherry maturation, especially today, since Scotch whiskey is so popular. I mean, if it wasn't, I mean, how many of these podcasts, or how many of these live feeds would you be having on Instagram? Not many. But it comes down to how many people do you know that actually drink sherry? Not many, unfortunately. I mean, I do, and I know that you probably do as well, and a few people at the table do. But it's a smaller proportion than what whiskey is drank in the United States. And those finishes, those sherry finishes, have to come from somewhere. So what is sherry versus sherry? The reason why I asked that question is, what is the difference between the casks that people use? And it's a question that a lot of people, even in our industry, don't ask. They'll say Oloroso, okay, great, but they don't necessarily talk about where it's from, who produced it, how long of an actual barrel was it? Was it a seasoned cask? Was it a cask that came exclusively from a particular type of sherry? So with this 15, long story, this goes into 3 different types of sherry casks. And of course, in true Dalmore style, looking at some of the more exclusive casks that Gonzalez Boice has, which is going to be the Methuselah Oloroso, that beautiful quote-unquote perfect sherry. You got the Apostolese sherry, which is a 25-year-old sherry, and then also a Amoroso sherry, where you're going to get that sweet, you're going to get that dry, and you're going to get that perfect sherry in the middle, which gives you that perfect balance between the bourbon influence of that vanilla, caramel, baking spice characteristics, and of course that sherry, that perfect balance between sweet and savory, also that big nut, dark chocolate, citrus characteristic that brings those two together. So the 15 is a great way to introduce themselves, or anybody, to Dalmore specifically, because it's just a damn good scotch. Plus, it's also a great one if you're not a whiskey drinker. In fact, I find a lot of wine drinkers really enjoy this one. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads around the room. They're trying to be quiet.
It's, once you have deliciousness in your mouth, you just shut up and you just enjoy it. It's happened to me. That's the best way to shut up somebody, is to give them some good juice, or good liquid in their mouth. Drew, we got any more of the questions that you would like to ask?
Sure. I have an interesting question that I haven't had or thought of myself, which is for the collectors out there. Scotch and Cognac wants to know, what's the difference between the new and old King Alexander?
New and old King Alexander. Well, the proofs are the same.
Good question.
The It really depends on where he's actually looking as far as Old King Alexander. Really, the only thing that's changed is the packaging, more so than anything else. But it's still the only single malt in the world that uses 6 distinctly different rare cask finishes, where it starts off an ex-bourbon for a good 15, 18 years, and then from there split into 5 different casks, where we're looking at this tour of the fortified wines, where you're looking at Madeira, Marsala, Methuselah, Cabernet Sauvignon, pork pipe casks as well, and then right back into ex-bourbon again. So it's a really a nice meld of all these beautiful flavors kind of brought together. So it's a very bright, very floral, as well as has those beautiful dark chocolate, citrus, vanilla, and caramel characteristics that Dalmore is so famous for. So
one lovely comment from Sammy Sam 501. Thanks to Ben, I can now sip whiskey and enjoy the flavors instead of taking it as a shot with my eyes closed.
Sammy also had a pretty good question, which is, what are some good snacks that you can have with Dalmore at a hosting an event or a dinner?
Well, Sammy, aloha, brother. I see you back there. So Sammy's from Hawaii, where I also lived for a little while. So, a little aloha. When it comes to food pairings, Dalmore is probably one of the best, just because of the, when you're looking at wine pairings, for example. For those of you that do drink sherry, you do know that there's a nice variety of sherries, all the way from very dry all the way up to very sweet. And when you have those, sorry, put on the house it. When you're looking at the different pairings, you can do anything from sweet to savory. It goes well with prosciutto, goes well with cheese, goes well with dark chocolate, especially dark chocolate. Goes well with any type of major little finger foods. Any type of canapes or any type of fast foods. It goes well with pretty much anything, really. It also depends on what you're actually serving. 12 versus 15 versus Portwood versus King versus 18.
Sounds good. You saw the question, Drew. You saw the question here, which might be a little controversial, but you know what? It's good to talk about these type of things. So,
okay, if you want
did you see that one from Mechanical?
Yep, I saw it.
Let's ask it. Let's have a discussion. It's healthy.
All right. Let me see if I can pull it up. Okay, so what's your response to critics who negatively comment that Dalmore is 40% ABV, chill filtration, and has E150 added?
So E150 is something that's used pretty commonly across pretty much most scotches, and a lot of it comes down to consistency. Because when you're looking at a Highland versus a Speyside versus an Isla versus an Island versus a Campbellton versus a Lowland, people, especially if you're already a whiskey drinker, is going to give you a kind of certain, I would say, kind of a understanding of what, by looking at the liquid, what it should taste like. So consistency, especially if you're using a first fill, second fill, third fill, fourth fill type of barrel, you're going to see there's going to be color differentiation that goes into it. Now, I've opened a Pandora's box because this is a topic that really gets people very, very excited and very, very animated, because there's both sides of the camp. It's kind of like, Republicans versus Democrats. It's a conversation I want to stay away from. But it is used pretty commonly, and it's not just in Scotch whiskey.
It's legitimate. It's by law. It's part of the law. I mean, they allow it for a reason. It's not something that you're doing illegal and mixing something in. You're not supposed to. It's part of the process. So, if it's part of the process, it's just a matter of preference, brand to brand.
Exactly. And there are some brands that don't use it. There's a lot of brands that do, including Irish whiskeys, including some Indian whiskeys, including some Japanese whiskeys. It's pretty common. As far as chill filtration and non-chill filtration, you can tell by looking at a glass, especially if you have a new glass, you can tell by looking at the legs, generally, if it's chill filtered versus non-chill filtered. And you're going to lose a lot of the natural flavors that go into the actual whiskey itself if you're going through a chill filtration versus a non-chill filtration. So especially with the Dalmore, I can tell you this has wonderful flavors. I definitely argue against the non-chill filter comment for sure. And then the proof, this is something that we've toyed with for a while. It's about the maturation and the flavor that goes into the actual whiskey. For Richard Paterson, that's the most important part. But as you can soon find out when we get into the Portwood, which is right over there, it's already made it all the way to the other side of the table. It's right there in your hand.
That's the King.
Oh, that's the King. Yeah. Oh, here it is, right behind me. Yeah. When we get into the Portwood, we're looking at 43% alcohol. So we're looking at 93 proof. So there's your answer right there. So we are dabbling in some higher proofs, but Richard wanted to find that right higher proof and that right maturation, especially when you're getting into the actual portwood. And we'll go into that one whenever we're ready. So I hope that helps.
No, absolutely. That was a great question by McCannibal. And for the record, he says, for the record, love Dalmore, hate those critics. So, McCannibal, please DM me your address. I got a pin coming for you. You got to pin your name on it. Please DM me your address. Let's continue. And let's see. Let's do a giveaway on these gorgeous cufflinks.
There's one I didn't talk about. Let's see who can Google the quickest.
1 second, Ben. 1 second. Sorry to interrupt. Previously, when I asked the question about, or for the earlier contest, some people started messaging on the chat here. So, guys, all the questions that we asked for the giveaways, you must DM me, and the first person who basically gets it right will be the winner. I'll be able to see it in the chronological order as the chat comes in on my DM. So, please do not post your comment here. Please DM me the correct answer to be a winner. Go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
So I noticed that Whiskey Freaks put up a question. I thought it'd be a pretty interesting one to add. Is there any Dalmore at cast strength? There is a Dalmore at cast strength. It's part of a collection called the Constellation series. And if you haven't seen it or heard of it yet, it's going to be a collection of 21 unique bottles that are all single barrel, single cask. They're also going to be separate ages, so they vary in ages anywhere between 19 years and 46 years. They also are all natural strength and also natural color. So they do have those. If you are interested in buying those things, buy them up because they are very collectible pieces. But bring your checkbook because they are also exclusive.
Excellent. So,
cufflinks. Here's my question. What was the year that the Dalmore Distillery was created? What was the founding year? I didn't say.
All right, so DM me the correct answer. First person to get it right wins it. I can't recall. Did we do a giveaway on this, or we just talked about it?
Not yet. No.
All right. So let's hold. Right. Let's hold. Keep going. The inspiration behind the packages. You know, I've seen the old bottles what my friends has. Obviously, I love the new packaging. Absolutely stellar. They stick out so much. Is there a certain inspiration which came in creating these packages, or it's just a marketing thing that refresh basically that most people do?
I mean, coming up with times, everything changes. You know, we have a relatively new marketing approach, especially when you're looking at the exclusivity of what makes Dalmore special, the exclusive casks that we get our hands on that nobody else can get their hands on, and also the rare whiskey selection and also collection that we have in our inventory. So we really wanted to kind of take Dalmore, what it is, and give it a luxury look. And it looks beautiful. It took a little while to get from printing on the bottle to actually having a piece on the bottle. We actually had pewter for a little while. We also, on some of the limited releases, we actually have still the pewter stag that's on there. If you buy some of our, what we call the crystal collection, which is actually 35, 40, and 45, which is in Baccarat crystal, you'll actually get a sterling silver stag that has been anchored onto the actual bottle. And they are absolutely gorgeous. If you haven't seen those, you can look them up online. But really showcasing what really is Dalmore. Dalmore is considered, you know, we consider especially the luxury Scotch leader in the category.
Where's got a good question here. Where's the Dalmore logo? The significance of it? Where does it come from?
It goes all the way back to the early 1200s with King Alexander. There's a reason why we've got a whiskey called King Alexander. That's comes down to the King's Reward. So in early 1200s, King Alexander was his life was saved by Colin of Kinsale. Now Colin of Kinsale was the chieftain of the Mackenzie clan. Now, when he saved his life from a 12-point big bull that was actually they were actually hunting and celebrating the recent expulsion of a war that had happened during that time period. And the king was actually out hunting, chasing down the biggest stag of the day. His horse tripped and fell. He hits the ground. The stag turns around and sees an opportunity to really kind of get a little bit of revenge. So everybody's freaking out because the king's on the ground. The king's looking at the stag coming at him. The stag's looking at the king, and the only person that realizes what's going on is Colin of Kinsale. Steps forward, takes his spear, and he puts it right through the stag's head, saving the king's life and stopping it right at his feet. So as you would expect, the king being pretty happy that he was alive, which naturally I would be too.
Yeah.
Bestowed upon him all the things you would expect: money, land, statue within the courts, castles. But the most important thing was to allow the Mackenzie clan to change its house sigil to using the Scottish royal emblem, which is the 12-point stag. So there's no higher honor that they could have bestowed upon him and his clan during that time period. It's like getting the Congressional Medal of Honor and wearing it around your neck, and then your kids get to wear it, and kids' kids get to wear it, and kids' kids get to wear it for generations on end. So fast forward until around early 1800s, when in 1839, when Alexander Matheson created the actual distillery. The William Mackenzie was one of the first people he hired to bring on. He had two sons, Charles and Andrew, and in 1867, they purchased the distillery from Alexander Matheson, and the first thing they did is they put their house crest on the actual bottle. So this is the crest that was given or gifted to the Mackenzie clan by King Alexander, the last real legitimate free king of Scotland, back in 1263.
This is my crest right here.
I like it. It's good. I'm looking for your flag.
What branches growing out of it?
So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, it's great. That's great.
I got a couple of quick ones just to squeeze in here question-wise. Being that the holiday season is coming up, Networking Maverick would like to know, what is the best value and taste to give us a gift?
Oh, again, what's your favorite music? It really comes down to, well, one, what's your price point? How much do you love this person? That could be a big part of it. I don't know. You could also look at what they do like. Do they like Scotch? Do they not like Scotch? 15 is always a safe bet. If they're a big whiskey drinker, Portwood could be a great one. If you really like them, King Alexander, of course. I've done a number of tastings where I've tasted big groups of people, and they talk about having these whiskeys available and sharing with their friends, but the one that they would not share is the King Alexander, which I understand. It's a wonderful, wonderful whiskey. But especially being in Miami, Miami, we enjoy a lot of cigars. We've got two great influencers in the room tonight that are cigar smokers as well as influencers. Go to the Cigar Malt. It's a great value. It's a great whiskey.
Raise your hand.
Yep.
Cigar Malt.
Cigar Malt.
Yeah.
The Cigar Malt was
I love
the Cigar Malt was the one that took the cake in the room.
All right, one more quick one. So, what is the best way to visit this distillery in Scotland?
Well,
by plane.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you bring two people plus me, then we're good to go. I'll make sure to set everything up. But of course, Dalmore, you can actually go online and you can actually reserve space to go visit the distillery. You can go in and get a personalized tour as well as tastings. If you can't do that, then you can always reach out to me on Instagram and I can get you set up the right way.
Ooh.
There you go.
Yes.
Keep going. I'm fixing your name. I put Bean instead of Ben.
Ah, that's all right.
Mr. Bean, Mr. Bean.
It's okay. One of my
It auto-corrected it.
one of my best friends and fellow industry professionals in Chicago likes to call me Boice to Ben, which is short for him saying Boice to Men. So
That's funny.
I'll take the bean anytime. Yeah.
Whiskey Edge, a little feedback here. Whiskey Edge says the lessons learned from Ben on history are impressive. So great feedback, man. You're doing a wonderful job. I've learned a lot, I'm sure, when I go back and watch these. So this video will stay on for 24 hours. Unfortunately, when we first started, we were on for about 20 minutes live. We had a little error. That video never got saved, although I did save on my other phone. It will be on the YouTube. So this video will be on Instagram for 24 hours. Eventually, I'll edit it and put it on my YouTube channel. So those of you guys watching, I do have a YouTube channel called Tonight's Poison under the same name. There, basically, when we do these Instagram lives, they basically show up there. There's a lot of other educational stuff on there, too. It's all about education. So as we visit different distilleries, if I ever go to Dalmore, I visit it, I'm going to basically document the whole thing and put it on my YouTube channel. So please do join and subscribe. You're watching Whiskey_Benjamin. That's your handle, correct?
That's me.
Please make sure you follow him. And let's continue on. I know you talked about a lot of different angles and moods and what people should buy for the holidays, but if you were, what's your favorite go-to Dalmore for you to enjoy?
Again, it all comes down to the time of day, but I'd have to say I consistently end up back at Dalmore 18.
Okay.
It is a wonderful dram. It showcases the unique flavor that Dalmore really kind of puts out there, which is going to be obviously dark chocolate, citrus. You get your baking spices, your cinnamon, your clove. You get a little bit of vanilla. You get some coffee or dark chocolate notes. It really showcases something unique. It's funny, like they consistently in our distillery we talk about Dalmore 15 as our house style. But if you go to the distillery, if you ask Richard Paterson, if you talk about the whiskeys like you're asking me now, what is my kind of go-to? Dalmore 18 is usually the very first one to go. So 43% alcohol, a little bit higher proof. It spends about 14 years in ex-bourbon cask before finishing its entire life between 4+ years in the Methuselah Oloroso sherry cask, that exclusive cask that we get our hands on that nobody else can get their hands on in the industry. Something else that we do that's also really unique, outside of a lot of the other producers, is we go straight to the bodega for a lot of our products. And when we do that, we have the unique opportunity to actually be able to save the integrity of what the barrel is about. So we'll take the Methuselah Oloroso, we'll fill it with about 15 liters worth of Oloroso sherry. We'll seal it up, and then we'll ship it to Scotland. It takes about 3 weeks. By the time it gets there, we'll dump out the sherry, and then we'll put our natural whiskeys in there for its final resting. What we don't tell you about is the fact that there's about 16 liters of sherry still in the wood grain itself, really bringing together that relationship between sherry and whiskey that goes back all the way to the early 1500s when we, as in Great Britain, where we used to import our own sherry casks to sell sherry and on the island.
That's fantastic, man.
So you take your answer.
Yeah. Hey, everybody watching, we would love to know, where is everybody from? If you're from a different country, please specify that. If you're in obviously different cities from around the United States, please comment now. Where's everybody from? I know I saw somebody from Argentina. I know there's a couple people here from Canada. That's fantastic. We'll love to see where everybody's from. Hey, Richard Paterson, can you please comment where you're from? No. He's not on live now.
Here's a trivia question for you. What's Richard's nickname?
Richard's nickname. Okay, so Richard's nickname, send me a DM, and you will win. What, Ben, describe this again?
It's a jigger. It's from Cocktail Kingdom, and it has the lovely Dalmore logo right in the middle.
It is a heavy piece. This is not plastic, guys. This is like a trophy cup. All right. So I hope someone over there can keep track of what I'm giving out for what.
Oh, we got Haiti. Look at that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Let's say we got Jamaica in the house. We got Uruguay in the house. Las Vegas.
China. Philadelphia.
China. Everybody.
Las Vegas. Love it.
Las Vegas is in the country.
It kind of is its own country.
Is it?
It really is.
Miami is.
We got Canada.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
A little bit of everybody.
So let's move on to.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do another. We have a lot of stuff here to give away, man. So let's do one more giveaway if we can. Barrel Raised, as again mentioned, hooked me up, made these custom glasses just for today. He shipped this over to me like a couple days ago. So I'm going to give one of these guys out. It has Tonight's Poison on one side and Dalmore on the other side. Please DM me the correct answer, and Ben is going to ask the question.
So what family has the logo on our bottle as their family crest?
Oh. I didn't go there. Can I say it like
Let's get into the port.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if I spelled it right.
So, Portwood.
Let's do it.
All right, for those of you that haven't had a chance to try this one, it's probably because it's brand new. It came to the United States in June of this year. Really excited about this one because this is going to be a kind of a gap between our 12 and our 15. So, criticisms that we've had just from a price standpoint, going back to what you buy for holiday gifts. We're looking at suggested retail for the 12 around $64.99, and then you get up to the 15 around $125.99. So there's a huge gap in price. So we came out with a non-age statement. So now in our core expressions, we've got 4 age statements with the 12, 15, 18, and also a 25. And then we've got 3 unaged statements, which we've got Portwood, which falls right in between 12 and 15. We've also got the Cigar Malt, which we just tried, and then, of course, the King Alexander. So it gives a nice variety of characteristic of both aged and non-aged statements. So the Portwood is a non-aged statement. The very first question anybody always asks me is, how old is it? Well, it's a question that's a really tough one to answer. There's two camps. There's obviously, we spent a good 50 years telling people that age statements make a huge impact. 12 is good, 15 is great, 18 is going to be substantially better. But we're also running into a good problem, but a bad problem in Scotland. It's a popular product, and people want it. So if it says 18 or 15, that's the youngest liquid that's in the bottle. So having some versatility is always a good way to actually be able to kind of sustain production throughout a lot of major distilleries' expressions. That's why you're seeing a lot of the distilleries, including some of the major brands out there, steer away from age statements into non-age statements, especially around the world. It's mostly in the United States that you see a lot of the age statements today. In our universe, we're using a non-age statement to really kind of showcase something unique. So in true Dalmore style, like the Cigar malt, which has the only single malt it uses, it's designed to enjoy with cigars. It's also using a Pignac Cru barrique casks. King Alexander, the only single malt in the world using 6 distinctly different rare casks. In true Dalmore style, this is only one of 2 tawny port wood finishes underneath $250 that you're going to be able to find from Scotland. It's unique. When you're looking at that Highland style, which is that multiple maturation, starting off in one cask and finishing in another, this is going to be, on average, about 12 years in ex-bourbon casks, and then the finish is in port wood. Not just any port wood, though, but a 10-year-old tawny port wood that we're getting from W&J Grahams specifically, which if you are a port collector or if you enjoy port extensively, it's one of the best and one of the biggest port producers in the world. Some of the most exclusive, some of the rarest ports that you'll ever be able to buy, between $5,000 to $6,000 a piece are coming from this particular bodega. They've been around since early 1700s, I think 1754, if I remember correctly. They're located in the Douro Valley in Portugal. They are the only producers that still have a team of coopers that cooper all of their barrels. So there's a lot of love that goes into making these beautiful ports. And so Richard, of course, going to Gonzalo Spice, going to Bordeaux to find some of his unique casks. He wanted to find a very unique relationship with working with the W&J Grahams team. So this is on average, $99.99 bottle that you're going to find on the shelf. It speaks to a couple of different levels. It's going to be on average around 12 to upwards of like 15 plus. If for those of you that are dying to know what the actual age statement is on it. But it's also going to showcase a very unique characteristic with Dalmore. We talked about that proof, 93 proof. Higher proof, unique maturation. Also, this has a port finish instead of a sherry finish. It's going to be a little bit sweeter on the palate. For those American drinkers, for those whiskey drinks that like to have that big mouthfeel and maturation, this is a great whiskey to jump into. So I hope that answers your question. And we haven't even tasted it yet.
I know. Wow. I can taste it already, though.
So, but when you put this one up to your nose, you're already getting a distinctly, almost like maraschino cherry characteristic, or maybe even like a dry fig, where it's going to have that slight sweet, but almost like molassesy kind of sweet. But then you'll also get the flavors that you get from Dalmore consistently. You'll still get some dark chocolate. You'll still get some citrus. You'll still get those baking spices. You'll still get a bit of vanilla and caramel. This doesn't spend its entire life in port for a major reason, because port is a very strong flavor. We don't want to have a port. We want to have a whiskey that's a port finish. So this is about, at minimum, 12 years, and then it goes into port casks and uses a 50-50 split between bourbon and port, where we're getting the essence of port, but not the full impact of the actual port itself. So it is 93 proof. It will sneak up to you. It drinks very, very, very clean, so you're not going to get that residual burn on the way down. But it is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful whiskey. For those of you that are weird and also geek out on whiskey, you also probably have one of these. This is my own little secret vial of secret elixir. It's basically just distilled water. Adding a little bit of water to your whiskey is always a good way to kind of open up your whiskey just a little bit more. And you literally only need to have 2 drops of whiskey.
I add something to my whiskey, too. More whiskey.
Exactly.
Tonight's poison for a reason. There we go. Cheers, man.
Hold on, I'm catching up to you.
Yeah. I'm dying to taste this. Slangema?
Slangema.
Slangeva, ragazzi.
Very good. That's not more.
Italian.
Ooh.
I'm not gonna lie.
Impressive. The ABV definitely, you could definitely feel the ABV, but it's like you said, it's not in your face. It sneaks up on you, nice and smooth. It's a great whiskey.
I mean, it has some heat behind it. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely a very balanced heat. It's not going to be something that's going to burn all the way down like a lot of like some whiskeys that are not the right balance of maturation.
Yeah.
That Richard's famous for. You know, Richard the Nose Paterson. There's a reason why he's called the Nose. I mean, because he's famous for nosing whiskey every single day. He's been known to nose whiskeys about 2 to 3 million in his lifetime, which is pretty impressive. And making over 1,000+ different whiskeys in his lifetime. So I mean, it's when
fantastic,
you look at
man.
those numbers, it's pretty. It shows when you look at this final piece that he put together.
Yeah. I don't have a timer on my phone. We did restart. I'm not sure if we're getting close. We'll probably have 5-10 minutes, I believe. But just in case it abruptly shuts off on us before we even close or do final giveaways, I do want to give a big shout out to Ben. Thank you so much. We've been trying to collaborate this for 2 months. Really much appreciated from the bottom of my heart. You're a true gentleman. You don't just look it. You act it. You are it. You're the man. I can't wait and look forward to meeting you in person one day and hanging out and having a dram together. And also Drew, because without Drew and Scotch Society 305 and all the people there, this wouldn't happen. We basically introduced me to Ben, and thanks, Drew. You know, you are basically paying it forward. You saw what I was doing with Instagram Live, and you suggested that I do something with Ben, and that's how today came about. And I guess since this video restarted, I'll have to do this skit again. How the concept, why the whole concept of live came about is we always go to really great events. I post about it, and people who are following, sometimes ask, hey, I wish I could go to one of those events. Unfortunately, those type of events that we're going to all the time are not everywhere in different countries or different cities even. I know most of the time it's metropolitan cities in New York and Chicago and California, parts of California and things like that. So this was an idea to do what we do as far as going out and having some really good quality event and education and more of a one-on-one. Actually, frankly speaking, all these whiskey fests that are happening, they're a shit show. You go to a table, you cannot have a conversation with Ben for more than 60 seconds, if that. All right, so this is an opportunity for you to know the brand ambassador, the story behind the brand, and truly learn from the comfort of your own home. I know Ben is dressed proper, and I did this earlier. It wasn't recorded probably, so I'm going to do it again. So the idea of this is to be comfortable in your own home, relaxed, wearing your boxers or whatever, and just chilling out. I know I'm dressed like this, but to show you, I am pretty comfortable. As you can see, I'm wearing shorts. Do it for the gram. So that's my spiel.
I saw a comment on there that said, is Richard Nose really insured? Yes, it is insured for 1.5 million pounds.
Oh, I believe it. I believe it.
Wow.
I believe it.
Oh.
All right, so I got an interesting giveaway, and I'm going to ask the question this time.
All right.
We got these beautiful tasting glasses, a set of it, the whole set basically right here, okay? This one's going to go out to somebody. We're going to give that out, and we're going to give the book out. Okay, we talked about it earlier. So 2 winners here. Everybody who's having Dalmore at home, okay? Everybody who's having Dalmore at home, they have a bottle with them. Take a selfie of yourself with a bottle. Your face and bottle must be in it, and DM it to me. The first 2 people will take a selfie and send it to me, win.
Wait.
He knows.
I know, it's like I see everybody scrambling for that.
So that's that. What else can you tell us about the brand, man?
It's definitely making waves. I mean, we're looking at some of the partnerships that we have around the world. In the United States, the Dalmore is the fastest growing luxury Scotch this last year and the year before. You know, we're looking around the world and looking at some of the partnerships that we've had, including some of the most unique relationships. You know, we worked with Daniel Boulud and did a collaboration between Daniel Boulud and Richard Paterson. You know, 50 Best Restaurants, which is a great organization. If you're not familiar with it, look it up. It's to really kind of rank the best restaurants in the world. We're going to be the official sponsor. We will for the next few years as the official Scotch whiskey for the event as well as for partnering with the different restaurants and restaurant concepts. We've got some really fun, unique activations that we're going to be partnering with some of these unique restaurants and chefs, so keep an eye out for it, especially if you live in the New York area. Keep an eye out. But you're going to start seeing some really interesting releases. I saw a question that popped up that said, what's the most expensive set that Richard has? And that would be the Paterson collection. It's actually 12 unique bottles that were hand-selected and also hand-produced by Richard that basically tells his entire life's profession, his life story. It's going to be a handwritten ledger. It has its own display-built personalized case. It also has, each bottle has its own individual carrying apparatus as well as crystal glassware to go along with it as well. Just recently sold to a private collector on the East for a little over $1.4 million. So 12 bottles, Richard's life, his whole story in that.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
It's pretty amazing. And when you're saying the escalation of rare whiskeys and the collection behind them, last year the most expensive bottle sold was a Dalmore 62, which sold for $126,000. I don't say that to boast. I say that to tell you that that record was broken in January, then it was broken in February, then it was broken again in March. Just recently it was broken again for $1.2 million for a bottle. I mean, it's pretty impressive to see how rare pieces and unique pieces are starting to really take off. So. Richard Paterson, especially being one of the best in the world, he's definitely got some fun things up his sleeves, and you're going to see some pretty amazing releases in the next few years.
That's awesome, man. So, we got any questions? Other questions? We got more giveaways. What do you want to do? Basically, we're wrapping up here. I don't want to get abruptly shut off because I don't have a timer on, unfortunately. But yeah, let's ask some more questions. Let's do some more giveaways.
Let's do some more giveaways.
More giveaways.
All right, so one more Glencairn glass with Dalmore and tonight's poison. That's the second and last one for the win. DM me for the correct answer with the correct answer.
Question.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. What type of barrel and from what producer are we using for the port on the final finish?
For the port?
For the port, yes. What are the casks we're using and what producer produced it?
Fantastic.
And it's, where did my port word go? It's on the back of the bottle. If you have it at home, it'll tell you.
Okay, fantastic. I got two more giveaways left. I have the lapel, and I have another set of glassware. So whatever format you want to do it in.
Any questions you want to throw out there, Drew?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, too many.
What's the best-selling Dalmore?
Best-selling Dalmore. Well, again, that kind of goes down to people enjoying Dalmore for the first time. So 12 is usually the best selling, but it's definitely closely followed by 15 and also Cigar Malt. Cigar Malt's a very unique whiskey.
Very cool.
So questions. Already asked that date. Asked that barrel. What are the questions? Do we have any? How many more giveaways we got?
I got two more giveaways. I got the glass set and lapel pin.
All right. So what is the name of this glass? What kind of glass is this?
Sorry.
Here's a question for you. If you're going to give away the glasses, you might as well know what they are, right?
Yeah. And one last one for the cufflinks.
The cufflinks. All right. What is the name of the collection that recently sold that Richard Paterson had on his life's collection? Give me one.
There you go. So DM me the correct answers, and you guys will be winners, and I will take the burden for mailing them out to you. Hopefully not everybody winning is international.
So real quickly, if you don't mind, I wanted to shout out, if you're not following me on Instagram, please do. It's whiskey without an E _ Benjamin. You'll see me with events. You'll also see upcoming tastings and those types of things that we do around the Southeast. But if you're not in the Southeast and you want to enjoy Dalmore or see some events that we have around the United States, up in the north and the northeast, we've got Jordan Zimmerman. She's JZimmerman _TX. Follow her as well. We've got Kimberly Drake, because _whiskey. We've got Louis.
We got a countdown going for 20 seconds. 20 seconds, the live will cut off. I'm going to give all these Instagram handles out during the final video and the edit. Ben, thanks so much. One last sentence. Want to say anything else? 10 seconds.
Enjoy whiskey because life's short.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys. I'm going to...